We are on section 8.2, and we have the quadratic function x squared plus 5, or y squared plus 5y plus 3, and we're going to plug it into the quadratic formula. We know our quadratic formula is, in this case, because our variable is y equals negative b, or the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. We know that our a in this case is 1, because there's no coefficient, it's a 1. Our b is 5, and our c is 3. So let's plug in what we know. The opposite of 5 is negative 5, plus or minus the square root 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times 3, all over 2 times 1. Simplifying that, I get negative 5 plus or minus. I get 25 minus 12 over 2, which is going to simplify to negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. Let's take a look at number 9. It says 8m squared minus 2m equals 7. We know before we can plug into the quadratic formula, we have to have it in standard form. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides to get it to standard form. Remember, standard form is this. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So when I get an a equals 8, a b equals negative 2, and a c equals negative 7. Let's plug it in. I get m equals negative 2 would be 2, plus or minus the square root negative 2 squared minus 4 times 8 times negative 7, all over 2 times 8. Simplifying, I get 2 plus or minus the square root of 4. Negative 4 times 8 times negative 7 gives me 224 plus 224 all over 16. If I'm wrong on that, it'd be nice to have somebody check it. And simplifying, I get 2 plus or minus the square root of 228 over 16. If I simplify that, I get that 2 plus or minus, if I simplify that a little bit, I get 2 square roots of 57, because that's 4 times 57 right there, all over 16. Divide everything by 2, I get 1 plus or minus the square root of 57 over 8. Yucky factoring there, 4 times 57. All right. Let's do number 10. I have 11n squared minus 9n equals 1. First thing I'm going to do is subtract 1 from both sides. We need it to say equals 0, so it's in standard form. So 11n squared minus 9n minus 1 equals 0. Plugging in, I get n equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root negative 9 squared minus 4 times 11 times negative 1, all over 2 times 11. Let's do some simplifying. I get 9 equals the square root of 81 plus 44, all over 22. Let's do some simplifying. I get the square root of 125 over 22. And one more step, 125 is 25 times 5. Square root of 25 is 5. So 9 plus or minus 5 root 5 all over 22. That doesn't simplify at all. And number 11, number 12. Let's jump to 12. It says x squared minus 13 equals 5x. Again, we need to get it in standard form before we can do anything. So I'm going to minus 5x. And I have to put my terms in descending order of powers of x. So I have to put that in between here. So squared x, no x. Now I can plug it into the quadratic formula. X equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root, negative 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 13, all over 2 times 1. Simplifying, I get 5 plus or minus the square root. Negative 5 squared is 25. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 13 is positive 52. All over 2. And I'm going to simplify that to 77. And 77 is 7 times 11, both prime numbers, no pairs or any perfect squares that can come out. So it stays like that. And the last one we're going to do today is number 13. We have 1/2 x squared minus x minus 1 equals 0. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm not a big fan of fractions. If I multiply my whole equation by 2 to get rid of my fractions, I'm going to get the same answer as if I use a half. So if I multiply through, I get x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals 0. So I will get the same answers with this equation as I do with this equation. So let's plug this one in, and I get x equals opposite of our middle term is 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2 all over 2 times 1. Simplifying, I get 2 plus or minus the square root. Negative 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 2 gives me positive 8 over 2. And simplify, I get 2 plus or minus. Now the square root of 12 is the same as the square root of 4 times 3, which is the same as 2 root 3. So I'm going to write this as 2 root 3 over 2. Notice that everything is divisible by 2 because I multiplied by 2. But I didn't have to deal with fractions. So I get 1 plus or minus the square root of 3. All right. Good luck!